Look, for somehow I didn't have a Snow White shirt, but I had a Snow White jacket. So that's gonna be the look for today, for this video. We're talking about Snow White dolls. Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome back to the channel where I'm still trying to figure out lighting and how things work. God, when I used to actually do TikToks and I had to circle light and everything, this would make it so much easier. But I didn't really plan this out, and I kind of realized, oh, maybe I should make a Snow White related video since that allegedly that movie is coming out. I already talked about designer doll series, but then I was thinking about how literally the one that started it all with movies and limited edition dolls are the same character, and that is Snow White. I actually love Snow White, and I think there's a lot of people in the world that don't. It's so funny because with this live action movie, there's so many people bitching about it and complaining about it and saying it's woke. I don't think they ever knew what that term actually ever meant. Half of the people that are complaining the movie seem like people who never actually gave two shits about Snow White before Rachel Zegler was involved. But I, as somebody who loves Snow White since I was a little kid, was obsessed, I get to say whatever I want, and I am going to rank all of the limited edition dolls from the Disney store of the characters from any version of Snow White. I'm going to only do the 17-inch limited edition dolls, but I think I need to touch on Once Upon a Time. These were a D23 exclusive from 2015, and people got to meet Jennifer Goodwin and Lana Parrilla and have them sign. They're really pretty. And I think it's insane that these were the only Once Upon a Time dolls to exist, because even though that show is a absolute menace of an existence and is a total shit show, it was such a big fandom and such a big part of Disney. I watched up until I lost my patience with it in season 4. Kind of thought that they should have done more, especially with there are so many good costumes of Snow White and the Evil Queen that they could have done, and the ones that they did end up making were good. Okay, so now we're going to dive into all the 17-inch limited edition dolls for any version of Snow White. And right now, smack in the bottom is, unfortunately, the Rachel Zegler limited edition Snow White doll. There's something about the color scheme of it. Snow White is always going to be a difficult color scheme to not only get correctly, but to have it look nice. I have drawn and designed so many variants of the classic Snow White dress, always trying to figure out the best combination of the blue with the yellow and the red and everything about it to make it look good. The face mold's not fantastic, and I think it's always going to be a hard sell when you're doing the molds, when Disney does the molds of the real people, because there's something about it. I own 2 of the Marvel collector dolls, and when you really look at the face sculpts, you can tell that they are based on the real person, but they do such cartoony things to it that there's something kind of off about them. Mattel did their own collector dolls for this new Snow White movie, and I think they actually look a lot better, and there's something a little more charming about the way that they went with the design choices, which is odd because they are the same costume. I've also seen a lot of people complain about the design of the costume and how everyone's like, but it's Sandy Powell. Yes, it is Sandy Powell, who is a great costume designer, and it kind of seemed like she was having fun. But also, what people have to remember is your job as a costume designer is you're not just the designer who gets to say whatever they want to do and throw it, and then that's their job. Costume designers are always having to do what the directors and the producers want, especially when you're working for a big company like Disney. They have a specific thing that they're always going to be looking for. And unfortunately, a lot of it is, it's kind of going to have to resemble the cartoon in some way. The only one that I think doesn't look like the cartoons that it's based on are Cinderella and Mulan, and I think that kind of helps them get away from their cartoon counterparts. The designs of this live action Snow White, there's something very panto about it, and that kind of intrigues me, so I am curious. And I have to say, it already looks better than the shit that we got for the live action Beauty and the Beast. I still can't believe also that more people are mad about this Snow White movie than they were for the live action Beauty and the Beast. But that's just me. I'm going to rank the live action Snow White doll at the bottom at 13 of the 13 limited edition dolls. It's kind of only fair that I put the Gal Gadot Evil Queen one, but I have to say, I really like this costume design. I think this is really cool. The Mattel Collector one seems to be doing another dress that she's going to wear in this movie, and it looks closer to the animated. I think both of them do look pretty good. I just feel like I have to justify keeping both the live actions together, because I don't know, because I feel like people would want to keep them as a set anyway. Again, the Mattel ones look better, but they don't look horrible. I think a lot of people are just really riding the hate train. Woo woo! So, at number 11, and I think a lot of people are gonna hate me for this, I'm gonna put the Shanghai Disneyland exclusive. There's something about it that I don't like in the way that they interpret the classic costume. And there's something about the packaging. Number 10 on the list is the very first Snow White doll that we got. This is the first limited edition doll that has started the plague of limited edition dolls that most of us collect to this day. Now, I think that it was very, very interesting. There were a lot of interesting choices that they did, like giving her an empire waist for this dress. The collar, I think, is really good. She has a very, I hope this makes sense, her face is very doll face, coquette kind of porcelain doll. It's pretty. I don't think that a lot of people deem this like one of the greats, but it definitely is history because it literally started the limited edition doll craze. Next on the list is the platinum set of Snow White and the Prince. If you're wondering why it's this low, I think it's because all the other platinum sets of this time for limited edition dolls were mostly wedding sets or the Beauty and the Beast set of them in their outfits from the dance. So, like, the iconic ones. I don't know why they didn't make this a wedding set for them. We eventually got the wedding Snow White doll because that came into like the concept art era, but I kind of, it's like this weird missed opportunity of, I kind of wish that they did do the wedding set for Snow White and the Prince. And because growing up, I used to watch the making of Snow White a lot, and the concept art of her in the dress was so beautiful. Again, we ended up getting it. I just always found this to be a weird choice when you look at it in the mix of all the other platinum sets. Is it maybe because all those sets were supposed to be their happy endings? But then that would make sense, because wouldn't the Beast be the prince by the end? Am I reading too much into this? So at number 8 is the 2022 regular release Snow White wedding doll, what we just talked about. So in the 2020s, that's kind of when we got the beginning of the limited edition dolls being references to concept art. And we have this Snow White doll in her wedding dress, which is a reference to the art from the making of Snow White that I talked about. But I really don't enjoy this thing that Disney does sometimes with the limited edition dolls, where there'll be a D23 exclusive version of something and then a regular release, and it's always kind of just not as, I don't want to say not as high quality, but like the details are different enough that you kind of go like, like her skirt's not as long. She doesn't have her figure. She also doesn't have this silk fabric that is like an overlay to her sleeves, because it made it look nicer, because without it, it kind of just looks like cheap iron-on red teardrops. And her face looks a little bit different too. She doesn't look happy to be getting married if you really look at her face. And she doesn't have the crown, and I think it's weird. It was just all these weird little things. This particular year, 2022, there were two other dolls that kind of suffered the same fate of having a D23 exclusive and then a regular release that kind of looked not as great. They also did this in 2019 with Vanessa, and then they did it this year with a version of Ariel. I don't care for this. I think that it's lazy, and I would have just preferred them to do different costumes for them. So next is the D23 version of the doll I just spoke about. The details in this are so much better. I think there's something a little more elegant about it. I do hate the packaging. I hate open door packaging for limited edition dolls like this. I think that it's annoying because the whole point of something as nice as a limited edition doll or like a collector doll is you want to display it. You want people to go into your house and you have it so proudly displayed on a shelf. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having this nice collector piece only for the doors to just have to keep going. Also, I love that Dopey's a little ring bearer. I think it's so cute. So next in the lineup is the Prince. It's just a handsome doll of Snow White's prince. I don't think this is one that people really talk about because Snow White's prince doesn't do anything. He's there. He was definitely only made because this was the time where they were making the prince alternatives. It exists. And I think it's very nice. It looks very, very nice. And that's about it. Number 5, the D23 exclusive doll of the Hag. And the face sculpt on this is what really makes this good. And it has really good details. I do have a critique though. Hear me out. In the script of the film, in the potion that the Evil Queen makes, one of the things was to change her clothes the black of night. And on this doll, there's a lot of colors. There's a lot of grays and burgundies and maroons. I kind of wish it was all in black. Variants have some really, really dark grays and onyx and charcoal in there. I think that would have been a little more relevant to the design of the film, but also of the storytelling. But overall, it's fantastic, and this is a really good D23 exclusive. At number 4, we have Snow White and Her Rags. This was the regular release of the 80th anniversary Snow White dolls. I think this is one of the ones that a lot of the collectors, this is a grail for a lot of people. This is one that people have started putting together with the Briar Rose doll and Cinderella and Her Rags as the Fab 3 in the rags. The design of this is so well done. I wish it was a little more raggedy, but it's also a limited edition doll. So I understand. And I'm very glad that this exists. So number 3 is the Evil Queen limited edition doll. Maybe I'm biased because the Evil Queen is my favorite Disney villain, actually. I just think that it was a very bold choice to not give her cowl at all. I think it was a little wild, but the face is so good. It's very dramatic. It looks fantastic. I love that they have the heart box. I don't think it's as good as Mattel's Evil Queen doll from 1998, something that I own. I think that will always be the best doll of the Evil Queen from Disney Snow White that we'll ever get, but I think we'll be okay. So, number 2 is the Saks Fifth Avenue Snow White doll. I remember 2017, Saks holiday window display was all Snow White. And the little gay Snow White lover in me was just leaping with joy that this was a choice that they made. And the window display was so good. I didn't get to see one of these dolls in person, and oh, I wish I did. I think it's so glorious. It was perfect because, it was holiday times and there is something kind of holiday-ish about it. The embroidery is so good. The drama, the box is so beautiful. It's one of the best Snow White faces that we've ever gotten. I just think that it's Snow White on steroids in the costume, in the details, everything. And I love when they do her in golds and whites and creams and, off-whites. I just really, as much as I like the traditional colors of Snow White, I just love this because I think it's something that's like a little more extra special. A little more extra special, is that a word? But if you ask me the best limited edition Snow White doll to exist from the Disney store, it's the D23 exclusive of the classic Snow White. What we were talking about before with the coloring of Snow White's costume, I think this is one of the best color palettes that they have done for that costume. I love the dark blue. I love how it's basically like a maroon and not like a bright red. I love that like darker yellow in the skirt. Again, same face that the Saks Fifth Avenue face had. Both beautiful. My friend has this and I'm kind of jealous because she asked me to wait in line with her at that D23. I was there and I said, absolutely not. I am not waiting. This was when I was really into cosplay and I was just like, I am not waiting in line. And I now regret it because now I wish I got one of these with her because now they go for so much money. But this is truly, I think this is like the epitome of like a limited edition Snow White doll. I think that it's so beautiful, so well done. Do I wish that the design for the film is that? Yes, but the film is doing its own thing and, I don't respect what Emma Watson did with Belle, but I feel like I can respect what they're doing for this movie because I kind of just don't care anymore. The only reason these movies at the end of the day exist, these, as people call live action remakes, as I like to call them, IP movies, is that they're just trying to maintain intellectual property because eventually Disney's versions of everything are going to go into public domain. So making these movies is kind of a insurance in some way, in a way that, if it does well, later on down the line, they have more time with Disney's version of The Seven Dwarves or Disney's version of Snow White, because I think in like 10 years or something, the animated Disney Snow White and the Seven Dwarf characters are going to become public domain. That's it. At the end of the day, it's actually not about the money. Yes, they want to make money, and all these remakes started because, people were going to them. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland made billions of dollars in the box office, so Disney sees that and goes, oh, I guess people want this. Maleficent made a shit ton of money and Disney went, oh, I guess people want us to do live movies of our own characters. Disney sees billions of dollars being made for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. As a business, you can't just be like, okay, don't do this anymore. They're going to see the dollar signs and go, oh, well, I guess this is what people want. Now there's a giant negative backlash of them, so I think that they're going to hone it in, because honestly, how much left is there for them to do? We created the monster. I just want you all to think about it. This is our fault. But that's why we don't talk about the movies and we talk about the dolls. And the dolls are good. All right, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment for more. Do you have a favorite Snow White doll in general? Comment below.